everybody, welcome here to another Kerfuffle panel show, and I am delighted to have with me, well, first of all, it looks like the tripods are staring at us there. It's a bit scary here, but that's what comes when you have the people from Giraffe. We have two giraffes in the room here. I don't know what's happened with Christians, but never mind. We will start off first and foremost, because I am obviously a very polite person, with Natalie. Hello, Natalie. How are you? Would you mind just introducing yourself and explaining where you're from?
Hi there, good morning. My name is Natalie Parks. I'm from Woolley and Parks Estate Agents. We are based in Yorkshire, so East Yorkshire predominantly, so Beverley, Driffield.
So Yorkshire, you're going to keep your opinions to yourself, I guess. That's sort of soft-spoken. Yeah.
Maybe not quite. So
of the other side of the Pennine, so I know how this works. I'll just defer and tug my forelock to you. We have the Viking, Mr. Byfield here. Hello, sir.
Morning, buddy. How you doing?
You're looking healthy, surprising considering.
Well, I mean, as long as I'm fooling people, great. No, all good, pal. All good.
All about that. Excellent stuff. And the man himself, Mr. Freddie Benestick. Hello, how are you, sir, from Giraffe itself?
Good, thank you very much. I feel a bit out of place. I've got the infamous Viking, the famous Simon Whale, and the incredible Natalie Parks from William Parks, who have just won which award was it? It was the Best Small Agency Award in Sales.
it certainly was, yep.
And
so yeah, I kind of feel rather insignificant at the moment.
Look, as I've said many times, you will never find Simon Whale more than 4 feet away from somebody who's won an estate agent.
I wondered why I was here.
Yeah, basically for me to hold on to your coattails and get some pixie dust. So congratulations again, as we said, from EA Masters, all down, as we know, to those 3 billion data points. There's no ability to falsify it or anything else. So it's an outstanding achievement. Well done to do it. And we're going to learn a little bit more over the course of 40 minutes, hopefully how Giraffe helps support you as well from that side of things. Before we kick off, just to give us a bit of context and background, would you, well, first of all, Freddie, just give us the briefest of overviews of what Giraffe's doing in the marketplace and how it helps agents, and then we'll jump into quizzing these two in a bit more detail.
Sure. So as we've spoken before, the most easy way to explain Giraffe360, it is a quality camera, which we have built ourselves, all operated by 2 buttons: still photography and a 3D scan. The 3D scan does your floor plan and virtual tour capturing all in one go. So really, there's no technical know-how needed. Everyone can be onboarded and know how to use the camera within 5-10 minutes of actually receiving it. And the point that we're trying to do here is by giving them a quality camera that can capture high quality assets, allow us to do their editing, because not everyone in the world can edit or is a good editor. So we'll do all the editing and making sure that all the assets are window ready or Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, portal ready.
Yeah. And
we deliver them all back to the agent.
And it really, I mean, it's so staggering simple, even though a bluffer like me who pretends he knows about technology, and as Christian always highlights, I know absolutely nothing. Even I can work your technology, which is, and I mean, just on this, can I just go into like the excited kid mode here? Natalie, it is, you've got one stood next to you. It is mind-numbingly brilliant, the kit itself, isn't it? Just in
absolutely. Terms of... So, and you touch upon that ease of use, so I am not technology savvy, so I was a little bit scared of the equipment, so whenever I first saw it, I thought it was going to be really complicated, something that I wouldn't be able to actually work. And it's so easy. So it almost does it for you, so you literally press a button, stand and wait for it to finish. So it does it without even thinking.
2 buttons doesn't leave you with many options, though, does it really, to be fair? Where you go wrong, it's like that.
I think a great advocacy of that was Tristan, who in our office does all of our marketing assets. He was off on holiday last week, and we took the kit down to a flat, and my partner took it down to a listing. She did the shots, brought it back to the office, pressed a couple of buttons, and all the files got uploaded, and a day later we got everything back. And I think that's the proof of a truly simple product is, great if it's easy enough if you're using it every day, but if you can pick up a product for the first time in several months, because I literally don't think I've touched that camera in about 4 or 5 months, pretty much since it arrived at the office. We had a bit of a, ooh, shiny new toy moment. But I genuinely don't think I've touched that camera in 4 and 5 months, you know, and yet, you know, my partner and I were able to literally shoot the property, upload it. And like I said, you know, a day later, all the assets were there ready and waiting for us. It doesn't really get much better or much easier than that, does it?
Tested by the Viking. There you are. I think that what's really interesting about that though, Christian, isn't it? Is there are a lot of products that are very good products, but they do take a bloody eternity to bed down, don't they? You know, it's CRM is a famous one, isn't it? That it can be quite difficult to get the data conversion right, the templates right, then the staff have got to do it. So you're looking at a win, but you're looking at a win quite a few months down the road.
Well, I think it's also not just that bedding down, right? You know, I gave that example for a reason, in that you will often need someone to step in on a product because someone goes sick or goes on holiday or, God forbid, leaves the business for whatever reason, you know, and you have then that infill moment where all of a sudden you've got to put a product in front of someone who is not used to using that product on a day-to-day basis. And I think the sort of rubber stamp of a beautifully built product, whether it's hardware like these guys have or a software product, is the fact that, you know, you can stick it in front of someone and within 5 minutes, they've kind of figured it out by themselves. You know, they don't need retraining. They don't need to ask 2,000 questions. And so, you know, that's why I said, you know, it was great with the camera the other day. You know, I'd literally not touched that in 4 months. And yet my partner zoomed off and shot a property and we got back and I pressed a couple of buttons and that all uploaded via Wi-Fi. You know, job done. I mean, that for me is the rubber stamp of a, you know, really quality, intuitive product that, you know, you don't have to use it day in, day out. You don't have to go back to training and user manuals. You can just have a look at it and figure it out. And, you know, within 5 minutes, you're using it. And once you've used it 2 or 3 times, you're using it as smoothly as the person who was using it 20 times a week.
You know what the acid test would be? I could well imagine Steve Jobs actually getting up on stage and using the Giraffe, couldn't you? He could do a whole pitch around it, around the simplicity, and it wouldn't feel out of place in one of.
I don't know, Whaley. You talking about acid test? Just I have very different visions.
Enough about your trips to Amsterdam, Christian.
Sounds like Burning Man to me, Whaley.
Yeah, sorry, you talk about them. Your when you're going to R&R, isn't it? That's what you call them.
R&R, yeah, absolutely.
So, what can I just ask if you remember about? First of all, Natalie, how long have you been using Giraffe, and do you remember what first attracted you to it?
So we met Freddie at the Year Masters, I believe, possibly about 3 years ago, was it? So when we were at the O2. And first sort of got a demo of the kit, you know, so had a little look at the costs, and at that point we were using Matterport.
Yep.
So we sort of had an equivalent of, and we just purchased the camera, and we were all a bit like, we've spent some money, so we're going to make this work, you know, so we're not changing it now. So we kind of sort of set it aside. Then Freddie was in touch with my business partner, Mark, you know, so for a long period of time. And eventually we decided, probably about 2 years ago, I would say now. So to pre-COVID, definitely. So to be able to kind of have these Giraffe cameras on board, and let's see whether or not it was going to be a simpler, more time efficient way of being able to market our properties. And we've not looked back. We haven't got the Matterport camera out of its bag in 2 years.
So I mean, Matterport's obviously a very well-known brand, hasn't it? And it's what was it that attracted you, that made you think that? What was the difference, I suppose, that you felt the Giraffe had the edge?
It's not only the quality, I guess, you know, so that's one side of it, but it, in all honesty, it was time, you know, so obviously from a valuer's point of view, you know, so you go out to put a house on the market, they don't have a huge amount of time before they're heading off to the next appointment. With Matterport, we'd have to have 2 people, so we'd have our valuer that would head out to photograph the property manually with your standard Canon camera, then they'd measure it with a laser, then they'd draw a floor plan, and then they'd obviously come back to the office to put it all together. And then my marketing guy would head out with the Matterport camera. He'd be another 3.5 hours, so putting the VR tour together at the property. And then he'd come back and that'd have to be uploaded. So from a time scale, it's exhausting. It was exhausting. It was a 2-man job to do something that and it took forever. So actually speed of getting the house on the market, we were still waiting on Matterport to bring back the VR tour. From a client's point of view, they had to vacate the house twice. I don't know if you've used Matterport, but a little bit, sort of not really user friendly. It's quite a clunky piece of kit, so that takes a while. I mean, Mark carried it around in a suitcase with wheels, so that gives you an idea of kind of how heavy it was. So to be able to actually sort of capture the same thing that Giraffe could do in the one camera. So it was a no-brainer, so and the second my valuers got one apiece, so that was it. They never looked back.
If the pubs were open, I'll be finishing there now, because I don't think we can do much better.
Job done.
But I think that what I like there, Natalie, is you talk about that. It proves, doesn't it, that no, just because people see virtual tours, they're not all the same, are they? The camera services aren't all the same, and that's why it is so important that to listen to people like your good selves, people out there at the coalface that have had experience of two. That's really, really useful feedback. So thank you for that. And what about yourself, Christian? How long? What was your? When did you come across the Giraffe?
Yeah, so I mean, I've actually just been looking up some dates. Well, whilst we were talking, so we did our first Giraffe property tour in the beginning of June. So we're 5.5 months in. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was about sort of consolidating what we do. So I mean, we're primarily a lettings agency. In fact, actually, as of the start of next year, we're going to transition into exclusively being a lettings agency. We're actually ending our sales service altogether.
You heard it here first on Kerfuffle.
I'll have the stock.
Yeah, our clients have been told, but no, I mean, one of the things that we've always looked at is, we've always taken a viewpoint that we're very fortunate in London that we work with high rents or high rents compared to the rest of the country. I mean, our average rent currently sits at about 2,200 a month. We manage about sort of 70-80% of our portfolio, and we're on 18% to let and manage. So we earn very good money from our clients. And I've always taken the viewpoint that given that fortune, we kind of have a duty to really kind of push what they get for that. And core focus for us has always been our marketing content. So I was looking at 3 things. We worked with a professional photographer from 2013, and we would get every single property professionally shot. He would also generate the floor plans, and we would do that every year. Even when a property came back, we would get him back to reshoot it. I mean, unless it was near enough identical. So we did that from 2013, and then I think we were one of the first agents, definitely one of the first letting agents in the country to adopt virtual tours. So we started doing virtual tours in 2015. So we've been doing them for 6 years. But initially we adopted, I don't think Giraffe was actually going that year. I think they probably launched about a year after that, or at least in the UK. We made the decision at that time to go with a platform called Supplier360, which is very well known. For us, there was a couple of reasons for that. A, because we were very early adopters. We sort of felt that this very much had a place in marketing. But that early doors, going for a big concept. And I think we tried 3D walkthrough, which got acquired by Matterport and actually became a lot of the algorithm tech that sat behind their virtual tours. We tried that, but very expensive. I think we shot one property on that platform, and I think we spent near 400 quid on that single tour. And that took about a week to turn around from us visiting the property to actually getting the assets. And as much as we like to be forward thinking and give value for our clients, I mean, that was a particularly special property. That's a property that rents nearly £4,000 a month. So to let them manage it, we're earning about £6,000 a year. So we felt that was £400 well-ish spent, but at a time where there was no consumer expectation of virtual tours. So yeah, it was nice. It was shiny. It was something special. But actually, none of the portals had any ability to display any of that for us. And that was of great frustration to me. I spent a good 3 or 4 years trying to smash Super and Rightmove over the head.
You used to have to try and cheat it, didn't you? Didn't you have to try and blag it into the URL or something?
Yeah, yeah. There were lots of sort of things. And I went on, unlike me, I went on several public rants about the portal's lack of innovation in adopting things like virtual tours and video, and we're getting there, but it's still not brilliant, but it's much better than it was. But sorry, anyway, I'm waffling. So we did iSpy360. We adopted it because it was very easy to use, it was very hands-on, but fundamentally it was very cheap. And so that was a really easy way for us to be able to adopt it with very low risk and play around with that and learn with the pluses and minuses. Where we, funnily enough, actually found the big win on that one is actually we adopted shooting virtual tours with our tenants' consent on our property inspections. So when we go into our property inspections, about 2/3 of our managed client base live abroad.
Yeah.
A lot of the properties we look after are actually their former homes. So there's quite an emotional bond with that property. And actually, the virtual tools for marketing initially, we got no engagement, largely for the issues I've explained, which was very hard to put it in front of people. But the virtual tools in our inspection reports got a phenomenal uptake. And actually, we've retained our iSpy360 account for that purpose. So although we've migrated Giraffe, we've kept that because the quality of tour that Giraffe produced for marketing is amazing. Totally overkill for an inspection. But, you know, I mean, I met Freddie for the first time, I think, probably about 4 years ago, Freddie would have been?
About three years ago.
3
Yeah,
years ago at one of the numerous prop tech events. And look, I really like what the guys were about. I don't think right then it sat right for us. I think a bit like Natalie was saying, you know, you have an eye on these things early doors. But we were looking at consolidating things and looking at the likes of Matterport come out and Giraffe and looking at the quality of those tours versus the considerably lower quality of resolution that iSpy360 had. And plus the fact that iSpy360, yes, very easy system to do online, but that's all time and effort of staff hours. So, you know, we made the decision probably at the turn of the year that we really wanted to now make that next step forward. And I think what triggered it was I was just generally looking at property online, and I launched a virtual tour without even thinking about it. And it literally just blew me away. I was like, my God, the resolution on this thing is phenomenal. I didn't even realize at first it was Giraffe. And then another thing that I really like, which is just a silly little thing, is their like dynamic floor plan that sits on the tour, and as you move around, it rotates. So you've always got your orientation with the property, with the aspect of the property, and yeah, just the user journey, the user experience on that. Like I said, the level of resolution and just the usability. It was that sort of moment of like, wow, you know, this compared to what we're producing now is, you know, leaps ahead, light years ahead of the content that we're producing now. And we were also leaning towards producing more video content. So we now do sort of editorial style videos for every listing we produce. And actually, when we looked at the logistics of it, Tristan, who produces our stuff, he's actually a trained photographer, and you know, builds websites and stuff on the side as a side hustle. Very, very talented guy. And you know, we looked at it and we were like, okay, well, you know, we've got an outsourced photographer, we've got iSpy360, you know, we're juggling all these different things. Actually, we can bring this into house. And we had a really candid chat with Freddie, and I think Freddie put us in touch with a couple of clients for us to talk to, you know, and we got a little bit of feedback from them saying, oh, you know, just be aware, it does take a little bit of time. You know, I know Natalie was saying it's smoother or faster than the Matterport production. I can't comment. I've never used Matterport. But, you know, the couple of agents we spoke to were like, look, just be prepared. You know, the fact of the matter is it takes a few minutes to scan. And actually, we sat down and we were like, actually, do you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Tristan, you know, we've got this now down. We've got a little kit a bag of kit that Tristan will take to properties with light bulbs in and bed sheets and all this sort of stuff. And he'll literally go in, he'll prep the first room, get it all looking nice, lights on, all the bulbs working. You know, if there's a bed in there with a plain mattress, pop the bed sheet on it, and he'll start shooting that room. And whilst that room's being shot, the 5 minutes it takes to shoot that room, he'll now work his way around the property, prepping all the rooms, and then come back and move that around. And once all the rooms are prepped, whilst that is scanning, he'll now go around with his video camera and he'll shoot all our editorial content. So whilst that's all happening, he'll be at a property for, on average, I'd say between an hour to an hour and a half. Bearing in mind, I'd say our average property is a decent sized 2-bed, 2-bath flat.
Yeah.
He will spend between an hour and an hour and a half at a property. He will come back, you know, and within 24 to 48 hours, we've got, you know, beautiful stills, the floor plan, the 4K virtual tour. And on top of that, he's edited towards, you know, he's edited the video content. And there we go. You know, for an hour and a half visit, we've got the most amazing array of marketing assets to convey that property, both in real terms, but also that sort of lifestyle upsell. You know, I think that's what our videos do, is a bit more of a lifestyle thing. But I'd say the number one comment we get from people going on viewings, and during the pandemic, we did a lot of hosted viewings. So that was actually before we were on Giraffe, when the main lockdowns were down. We did a lot of video call viewings and online viewings. Currently, I have to say, we largely don't. We're actually quite insistent on getting people back into property where it's feasible, and particularly where the property is vacant. But the number one comment I would say we get from 90% of the people who come to see properties is, wow, this looks exactly like it does online. And I think that's the big thing. I think that's one of the biggest consumer disappointments, is they're shown photos that they don't know are like 5 years old and have been photoshopped to hell. And they walk in, and this beautiful, modern, bright property that they've seen online, they walk in and actually the walls are really tired and the furniture's tired, and it's not as bright as the light levels had made you believe, and you know, all this sort of thing. And I think, you know,
being a prop tech lovey, that's akin to when you see the infinity pool at a hotel and you get there and the pool's only about that big.
Exactly, yeah, it's a frog pool. So yeah, I think, you know, and for me, I think for us, it's part of our thing has always been about quality and transparency. And I think, you know, that experience that your applicants, your consumers, whatever you want to call them, that experience that they have of searching online, which for many is already frustrating enough. They call in about listings that are long gone and blah, blah, blah. To finally get through the door of a property they've been trying to find, only to find that actually that property looks nothing like it's been represented online. Like, what a horrendous experience. And I've never understood the agency benefit of that. I get it. You need to hit your figures. You need to hit your viewing targets. You can't sell a property unless you're getting people through the door. But if you're tricking people into walking through that front door to show them something completely different, my God, you're setting yourself up for a bloody hard job. And God, you're delivering a horrible consumer experience, you know. And I think we've all had it. I'm sure Natalie's had it loads of times, where you go out with applicants who've done a morning with another agent, you know, and they come out on a viewing with you and they walk in the first property and they're like, oh, you know, oh, this is exactly what it looks. Oh, this is nice. This is what we were expecting. And you're a bit like, yeah, kind of the idea. And they're like, well, let me tell you about my morning. Because I've been to 5 properties this morning with so-and-so that not only look nothing like they looked online, you know, they didn't match our criteria, they were out of our budget, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like I said, the number one comment that we get from our applicants at the moment, and the thing I like the most, is they walk in and it's like, yeah, this is exactly as it is online. Like, we could have taken this property based on what we saw online. It's totally accurate.
Christian, what percentage of your competition, people in your area, do you feel are offering that quality, the quality of output that you've just been talking about so eloquently there?
I mean, on lettings,
yeah,
5%, 3%.
What about you, Natalie? In your marketplace, what do you?
Slightly higher, I would say. It's probably more 20%, you know, so I think from the Giraffe usage, you know, so I don't know of any competitors that are using it just yet. I'm sure they're gonna, you know, get switched on to the idea of it very shortly. I'm sure of it, you know, so but at the moment we are standing out from the crowd with the fact that we are using this piece of kit.
And that was where I was going with this. The wonderful thing about where you are in this marketplace at the moment with something like the Giraffe, you know, sometimes you do technology just to keep up with the Joneses approach.
Yeah.
Whereas what you guys are doing is doing that to actually be able to win market share and impress people. And that's a beautiful honeymoon period, isn't it? Where you can make those differences.
And we've had that honeymoon period for sure, you know, so definitely been the only agent in both of our marketplaces that have been using VR tours, you know, so for such a long period of time. Our competition are just getting on board, and I feel like they've missed a trick because, you know, sort of during that lockdown period, they were crucial for us to keep going. So it's yeah, they're sort of a bit late to the party. So we have made headway.
Well, I can see
there's been an unexpected benefit with ours as well, which is, and again, Natalie, don't know if you find this, but they're so high resolution that there's nowhere to hide with them.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, you do stills, you can Photoshop stuff, you can make tired walls look fine quite easily, you know, all that sort of editing. In a 4K virtual tour, there is no hiding. If you've got a sofa that's falling apart at the seams, they're going to literally be able to see the threads hanging off the corner of that sofa. And I think some agents might hear that and be like, ooh, you know, we've actually used that really powerfully with our clients, where we've leveraged that to raise the standard of our properties.
Agreed.
Our properties were always good before, but I genuinely feel in the last 2 years, we've raised the standard of our rental properties by 10 or 20%, and particularly this year, off the back of Giraffe tours. Because, you know, we have a conversation with a client and we go, look, to be honest, you know, we've checked your ledger. Last time you decorated it was 4 or 5 years ago. You know, the last that you bought the sofa 10 years ago. If we're honest, our concern is when we shoot the tour, actually, your flat's going to look quite tired. And some are on board straight away and some push back. So, you know what, we go and shoot the tour. But we hold off putting it live and we send the tour to the client and we go, you have a look around. How would you feel walking into that property, seeing the walls looking like that, being presented with a sofa in that sort of condition? And we've had clients come back to us going, oh God, I wish I'd listened to you because I wouldn't have just lost 2 weeks. Yeah, can we get the flat repainted? Can you quote me for give me 2 or 3 choices of sofa? And do you know what? Whilst we're at it, can you quote me for some new light fittings? And actually, the fridge is looking a bit knackered. And, you know, actually what we see is clients actually completely double down and go, do you know what? Let's hold it off for a month. Let's chuck 3 or 4 grand at just bringing that property back to the best standard it can be, which will hopefully see us for the next 5 to 10 years. But it's made that conversation really easy, because rather than a client on the other side of the world having to trust our word, and I'm proud to say most of our clients do 100% trust us, but it is still that level of trust. To have that undeniable, you know, with the Giraffe tours, you almost feel like you can reach out and touch stuff. The resolution is that good. It just removes any question. And we categorically couldn't have done that with iSpy. You know, the resolution categorically wasn't there. If anything, the resolution on that made really good properties look a bit softer and a bit more mediocre. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a tool that strengthened that conversation. And by doing that, we're delivering a higher quality of property and ultimately achieving more rent for that client. So it's a better business transaction. I mean, we had one client recently who, off the back of that, did a full repaint, replaced all the flooring in the living room, put new kitchen worktops in. You know, we delayed it about a month. We put it on the market. We let it within 24 hours for nearly 25% more rent than we put it on the market a month before those works were done. And so in about 18 months, those works will pay for themselves completely in an uplift in rent. But that will see them through for the next 5, 6, 7, if they're lucky, 10 years. So, you know, money well spent.
It must be really nice listening to Natalie and Christian here talking with such passion about about the just the prowess of the Giraffe offering now. I mean, that's why obviously you guys entered the marketplace, wasn't it? Where do you feel you guys are up to in terms of your aims to get to the marketplace? I mentioned there just briefly, you were, as Natalie was saying, none of the competition so far have got it, and you were Dr. Evil style there, thinking, well, we're going to have world domination at some stage. But it's a fast-moving world out there, isn't it? What are Giraffe doing to make sure you stay ahead of the competition?
Well, I even forgot what my voice sounds like. Thank you both. What we're doing now is we work through all the niggling standard issues of a growing startup, those growing pains. You know, the time that Christian's mentioned that he heard from those references. Yes, we used to take longer and we're getting faster. We're still not what I would call quick, but I'm hoping to be able to say more about an uplift in pace, a very significant uplift in pace very shortly. And that's for our next edition. But we're looking at a number of different things which will continue to maintain the qualities that we have been wanting to provide to agents by maintaining that ease of use, but also wanting to be even more competitive with our pricing. And those that know us will already know that we're very competitive in our marketplace as to how we work. So we've never been someone who's been trying to charge more and more. We're actually a company that's trying to provide more and more and charge less and less moving forward. That is our goal. And, you know, I've told Natalie this, I've told Christian this, you know, when the renewal time comes, this is the set price. This is the maximum price. It will not go higher unless something goes horribly wrong. And the goal is to actually make it lower and lower as time goes on. So to answer your question, one, we want to be better at doing what we do, even though we have the highest quality virtual tours on the planet at the moment. We want to be able to offer more, such as this video content, maybe a walkthrough based off of the virtual tours that are captured is an automated walkthrough, that sort of style. We want to increase the quality of our floor plans, and we just want to keep up with making sure that our technology is always at the forefront. So I can't say more than that, but what I can say is there is definitely more to come, and hopefully in the coming weeks, maybe a month, we can have another conversation about what's coming soon.
You really are a tease, but I do like a little bit of that. That's wonderful. Natalie, Christian was talking there about the likes of remote viewings, virtual viewings there. We had a little chat off camera about how you see that. Would you mind just talking about how Giraffe plays into and what your view is on that particular angle?
Yeah, absolutely. So with regards to the virtual tours, obviously we're a sales agent, you know, so for us, it's good to be able to sort of really get to know our buyers, you know, so they're, you know, sort of obviously they're looking in the area for quite some time. Initially, what we use the virtual tour for is to be able to meet the buyer, you know, so actually do a hosted virtual tour whereby we sort of start to build that little bit of rapport with them, get to understand what they're actually looking for, rather than actually having to get in the car and head out to the villages, which are miles and miles away. We live in Yorkshire, remember, so everything's not easy to get to. So rather than sort of traipsing from house to house, you know, so we'll actually do a lot of virtual tours online, hosting that, meeting like we are now, to be able to really gauge what their requirements are, to get a real understanding of what they're looking for in the market. Once we've done that, we've kind of pinpointed the ones that they really want to see, you know, so again, I'm a big believer in physical viewings. You can't fall in love with a house seeing it virtually, you know, so you have to physically get through the front door. But when we meet them, we're almost seeing them, they're almost at that second, third viewing stage. They're almost ready to buy, do you know? So this physical viewing is just purely the last nail in the coffin, do you know? So they just need to get through the front door, make sure they're completely happy with what they've seen. And just like you touched upon previously, what they're expecting, because everything is so honest and transparent via the camera, that they're not disappointed when they get there. And when they get into the house, they're literally ready to make an offer. So they're meeting with a representative from my team, you know, so one of, you know, sort of somebody that is there ready to take the offer. They're offering in the house, and the speed of listing to sale has just gone through the roof, you know. So we obviously subscribe to Get Agent, you know, so they'll send us my staff stats every month, do you know? So we are leaps and bounds above the competition with speed to sale. So we are always the leader of the pack, do you know? So because they've already done that first viewing online, the second viewing, they're there, they're ready to make an offer and they're ready to buy.
Like you said, that bit when they rock up, it's actually less about the property, right? Like I find that most of the people I meet, it's about what's the street like?
Yeah.
What's the neighborhood like?
Absolutely.
Like if it's a house, what's the garden like? Okay, because a virtual tour will only convey so much, but it's sort of about those intangibles.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they already know exactly what the property's like. They're already 99% sold. Unless they walk in and you've hidden some damp or something, unless there's something, a big alarm bell, like you said, literally they're rocking up pretty much ready to buy. It's just ticking those last boxes of, oh, let's just make sure the neighbor doesn't have 5 broken down cars parked in his driveway and, whatever else it is. But it's more about that. Do we see ourselves living on this street? Do we see ourselves living in this neighborhood rather than do we see ourselves living in that property? Because that is what we're looking for.
They're already there.
So I tell you what, so I naively, as I so often do, thought that there was going to be a big efficiency gain just in terms of, Giraffe over other applications and other offerings out there. But what you're talking to me about there is there's also an efficiency in optimizing the sales cycle, essentially, in terms of the decision-making process, which is the far bigger deal, really, isn't it, than anything else?
Well, I think it's a move away from how we all used to work as agents, right? I think, I'd love to hear what Natalie thinks about this, but I think, when I started an agency 20 years ago, it was, the focus, what got drilled into you about managers was viewings, was just filling your diary morning to night with viewings. You do 12 viewings a day, you'll get 4 offers, and out of that, you'll get 1 deal. And it was all about that, sling enough mud. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if it's 10% over their budget, just take them to see it. Doesn't matter if it's ground floor and they said they categorically won't live on ground floor. It's the only thing we've got in their budget. Take them to see it. And what a crap consumer experience, and what a waste of agency resources. This bizarre attitude of a viewing for viewing's sake. And, as you were talking about just now, you learn so much in that first 1 or 2 properties. You learn so much about your applicant. You learn who wears the trousers if it's a couple. You learn, are they, do they genuinely know what they're looking for, or is it pie in the sky nonsense? Are they telling you the most important thing is that it's near this school, but actually the most important thing is that it's got a double garage? Those first couple of viewings, and like you said, for you as an agent to save that time, but also to say to that consumer, come on, let me show you a couple of properties online. Don't take an hour out of your work day, because there's been a really interesting thread I've seen going around quite a bit on a lot of the agency networking groups today, which is about when you show property because of the winter hours. And I've seen loads of agents going, we don't show anyone a property after 4 o'clock at this time of year. And I'm like, okay, interesting. We basically only show our properties after 4 o'clock just because of people's work. But I found that a really interesting thing. So if you're limiting yourself to daylight hours, if you're limiting, basically your viewing schedule ends at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you want to maximize that. So you don't want to be running around with a client in your car for 2.5, 3 hours, showing them 5 properties. You want to do that online vet. Great. I now get you. Here's 3 properties I think that are very much in the ballpark. Let's do a quick online, but then let's get you out on the road and let's show you those 3. And I know my stuff. I know my stock. 85% you're going to take one of those.
Yeah. And that's it, so that conversion from viewing to offer, our is literally 1 in 2, so every other viewing results in an offer. So we're not wasting our time, and more importantly, we're not wasting their time. So
exactly.
Everybody is so busy, so that and like you, we get clients that need to see a house at 6 o'clock. They don't finish work till 5:30. So rather than working ridiculous hours, so to be able to accommodate other people's working pattern, we'll meet them on the lunch hour, so online and guide them through the house, and they very much discount it or they don't, so actually on that virtual viewing. And that's what Giraffe has enabled us to be able to do.
Do you think, Natalie, there that actually the one of the effects of COVID and the lockdown process has been just about challenging those rather tired kind of opinions of how things should have been done and everything else, and now people are in just a more experimental phase?
Absolutely. So, and bearing in mind the area that we work in, so we are in a very sleepy Yorkshire towns, so we're talking farmers, we're talking, sort of an elder generation that have always kind of, stood back away from technology, don't trust it, don't believe it, so don't want to get on board with it, are very unwilling to learn. And in our market towns, so it's such a user-friendly, so experience that actually even that older generation are on board, so they don't want.
That for me is the killer there, Natalie, isn't it? When you see that, let's call them unkindly, when you see Luddites coming around to that side of things, because it is just so obviously effective and works, that's when you've got something, haven't you?
I think to look at it the other way as well, like, as agents, we've been bashed over the head for the good last 10 years for suppliers telling us how much we lack innovation and how unresponsive we are to change, but it goes hand in hand with the consumer. It goes hand in hand with the consumer. As I was talking about earlier, we started doing virtual tours 6 years ago, and we got no traction on them because it didn't matter what we were doing if the consumer doesn't embrace that. You can shout till you're blue in the face. You're not going to convince them. And I think the great thing with the pandemic is, yes, absolutely, it's forced a lot of agents that were being Luddites to really look internally and embrace this change. But the main reason they were forced to do that is because the consumer suddenly got on board. Yeah. Like we could have tried all the digital transformation we wanted, but if people were going, I don't want to do a virtual tour, I'm not interested in the property unless I come and see it in person. If that was the standard, for the best will, we could talk about here and wax lyrical about any marketing asset, but if the consumer doesn't engage with it, it's ultimately just fluff. And what has really happened, and it's fascinating being in London. Generally, everyone's pretty tech savvy, so it's awesome to hear these sort of regional towns all over the place where, like you said, Natalie, like people wouldn't even, didn't like to do internet banking and didn't like to,
like
order something from Amazon. Yeah, exactly. Resistant to email.
The thought of sending me an email rather than just popping
send me a letter. Yeah, or don't worry, I'll pop in.
I'll pop in.
Don't give him an opportunity to sneer at us Northerners. He doesn't look back down in his cool suburb.
I love it up north. I do.
But one thing, first of all, it's absolutely fantastic hearing you waxing lyrical about this and getting your feedback. But one of the things we often forget, actually, as suppliers, is that as great as it is to hear ultimately the agent's own view of this, as you just highlighted there, the ultimate arbiter of the success will be what the B2C experience is about, isn't it? So what do some of your clients feedback to you about the service, even though they won't know that it's Giraffe? Do they go out of their way to talk to you about how pleased they are with it?
Yeah, mainly our new clients. It's a listing winner, so it's an instruction winner, so that's for us, so not only is your buyer having a really, sort of great experience, but for us going out there, so more clients are choosing us because of sort of the quality of what we're about to produce with their house. And like you touched upon earlier, so even in Yorkshire where people don't want to spend any money, so once they know that a VR tour is going to be displayed, so they're going to up their game with regards to the presentation of their own home, so which ultimately gives them the best possible price, is exactly what they're looking for. So not only is our buyer's journey, so a lot smoother, a lot easier, so less time constraints, but from an instruction point of view, so our listings, because of it, so have also gone through the roof.
And Natalie, do you find as well, I find it's not just an instruction winner, it's a fee winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
no.
Fee is not a debate. Like when we go and see clients, when we talk about our marketing, that doesn't even come up. We don't get clients going,
And if we get the objection, we take it away. So that's what we use with it now. Do you know? So if somebody says to me, I don't want to pay you 1.5% fee, do you know? So I only want to pay what the competitors are charging. And I very politely said, that's absolutely fine, but I won't be able to market your property in the same way. So you won't be able to have the Giraffe. And the second they know they're going to lose out on that floor plan and that VR tour and the quality of those images, and they see me get the Canon camera out the bag again, do you know? So they're not interested. They'd rather pay more to have more, and that even in where we are, do you know, so they will absolutely pay for the right quality of marketing.
Look, it overrides other conversations as well, right? So
absolutely,
you know, we aren't on a certain portal which is supposedly essential to run any estate agency business, you know, and I've seen lots of agents battle with that decision, and look, in some marketplaces it is a must-have, but when you're not doing anything else outside of that, you just come off a major portal, you're going to have to work damn hard to justify that. But when you've got other topics of conversation, oh, why aren't you on this? Well, let's not talk about what we're not doing, let's talk about what we are doing, and let's talk about what that means for you. You know, that means a faster sale, a more reliable sale. You know, we're achieving, you know, at or above the market rate. You know, those are the conversations that really, when a client gets down to the nitty gritty, those are actually the things they really care about. You know, and the consumer isn't that knowledgeable. So they go, you know, the big brand is the obvious stuff. Those are the obvious questions to ask. But I genuinely, I don't think in the last year, I don't think we've even been asked about the fact that we're not on there, you know, because our conversation starts with literally our opening email. When we get a client inquiry, we have that first phone call, you know, we have a little two-liner, and then the first three things on our email is check out one of our latest virtual tours here, check out one of our Zoopla listings here, and check out one of our latest video editorials. And we lead with that above everything else. Forget awards and reviews and all that sort of stuff. Those are the three things that we hit literally after just a little one-liner intro.
If you just had less ticks in the box, of course, it's not going to be a particularly powerful pitch, isn't it? But when you're able to say, well, actually, here's what most agents do, and we're doing this differently, that is then there's a definitive choice, isn't there?
Yeah. Stand out.
And again, it's about that investment. You know, let's make no mistake. We work in an industry where we're no sale or no let, no fee, you know, and at the end of the day, I think the more you can, the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The more commitment that you're making to that transaction, the more buy-in that you're giving in the production of your marketing assets and how you go about, you know, I mean, I think, talking about other agents, we see great stuff like Ian Story at Stories. Like, I love
he's great.
The message he does with his marketing, his little teaser shots, and then, you know, going into more stuff. You get rid of all the other noise. You get rid of all the other noise because it's all about, look how amazing we make your property. Look, and you know, at the end of the day, we all know you achieve the best price for a client when you get that emotional buy-in from your buyer, when they fall in love with the property. That's when you can start rubbing your hands together mutually and go on that journey. But I think if you can show that client that, do you know what, notice buts and maybes, we're in on this. We're spending days producing incredible content that make your property as desirable as it can possibly be. That for clients straight away, it shows that passion and that interest.
And about
in the
core element about how it looks, isn't it? Which is the first rule of marketing, isn't it? It's what does the property look like? Well, I'm just glad that Natalie at least gave me the ability to say that you just need one more instruction to pay for this. So that is quite important from a supplier's point of view. It's an old faithful. Freddie, it's the quietest I've ever heard you, but I think you're making exactly the right decision to remain quiet while there's absolute gold dust coming out of these two. One of the things I was going to ask you, though, we were all at EA Masters. Some of us come away a little bit iller than others. What what do you see as the trends there? Because that's, you know, very much, it's obviously demonstrably it's meant to be the top 5% or whatever else of the agents that are going there. Are you seeing that those kind of agents are focusing in on solutions like you because they realise that there's the gap between the rest and the best are getting bigger?
Absolutely. EA Masters is a very community feeling event, if I'm totally honest. It's a community environment. We've all been to all the other ones. We've been to Negotiator. We've been to we haven't been to Estes actually, but we've been to all different conferences and also in different countries. But when it comes to EA Masters, it's very community. People are actually genuinely there to actually see one another. They genuinely engage with one another. It's not just a case of going there for a dinner and a drink. So our clients were coming up to us. We had Natalie, for example, who pretty much was selling 5 or 6 cameras for us. You wouldn't have known if she was an estate agent or working for Giraffe360 on the day.
She will send you an invoice, by the way, on the basis of...
Well, we also had Michelle from JD Gallagher and Josh. They both came over and again doing the same thing. We had the Parkers lot, we had the Belvoir lot. Everyone's coming over to say hello and just see what's new. They want to hear what's the latest thing coming out with us. And they really do engage. And then not only do they engage with us, they then engage with people who are interested in our camera at our stand. And that's an amazing thing to happen. So with regards to the trends, the funny thing is, I put the question back to all of you. We've been in prop tech for a while. And if we think about all the new products that come out, if it's a product that's of interest, people pigeonhole it as, okay, that's for sales, or that's for lettings, or that's for the upper market, or that's for the lower market. The funny thing is that since I've been with Giraffe360, and before that I was doing my own prop tech startups, I've never worked with a product where it differs so many opinions and what people would use it for. I have agents who want to streamline their marketing, will use it across sales and lettings.
Yeah.
I then speak to agents who are like, I'd only use this on sales, it's not worth it on lettings. I then have agents who say, I wouldn't use it on sales, it's only worth it on lettings because the reusable factor.
You're just agreeing with all of them, saying you're right. Right.
You're absolutely right.
But this is the thing. And the funny thing is that I've then got, you know, you're always going to have people, because quality is subjective, you're going to people who say, well, this isn't good enough for my top end. Yeah. Now, the funny thing is that I have independents in certain ends of the world who will say, I'll use this just on my standard properties and my elite, I'm going to get a service provider for. On the other side, I've actually got a company who only use us on their fine and country top end sales because they believe it warrants that extra quality. So
saying as estate agents are mental, really, and that's
exactly.
Here on the Kerfuffle show today, the official view of. I think one of the other things, I mean, it's important to point out as well is you're in 18 different countries as well, aren't you? So this is, I mean, Giraffe is going from strength to strength, but also, you know, not just as you were talking about in different sectors and niches in the UK market, but across real estate for whatever that is across the entire globe.
Well, we're actually now in over 30 countries. It's we've had a very quick expansion, so it's amazing. A lot has happened in the last year. But again, that wouldn't have happened without the help of all the UK agents who have been supporting us, because it's not just taking on our product and paying us, it's far from it. We had niggling little issues, which agents helped us deal with. They helped us show where our weak points were. And we are a genuine learning company who keep adapting and adapting and adapting. So that's helped us then increase the quality, increase the sales furthermore, and allowed us to then expand into different markets.
And other than the likes of Natalie here as well, winning, you know, that big, but you had a lot of your mutual clients were going up on stage, picking up the big ones themselves, weren't they? Not least
indeed. And
I was just going to say, I genuinely believe we wouldn't have won the award without the Giraffe camera, do you know? So from a marketing point of view, do you know? So when I looked at the judging criteria and how we were actually looked upon, do you know, from a marketing, we scored so highly because of every single listing that we put out there always has, it's the same across the board, whether it be the most expensive, whether it be the cheap one bed flat, so which you can pick up in Driffield for about 70 grand, so you will still get the Giraffe experience, so every single instruction has got that virtual tour, that square footage, that proper floor plan, those professional images, regardless. So and genuinely, I truly believe we've won because our marketing got better within the last 2 years.
I think also coming back on what Fred was saying, there are suppliers out there and there are partners.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
suppliers have a product, doesn't ever really change that much. And actually, over time, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker.
But enough about Kerfuffle.
And there's a handful of partners out there. There's a handful of partners out there. And look, I think generally the supplier industry is moving this way and the tech industry is generally moving this way. But I think Giraffe is a perfect example of this, and the things that Fred has talked about in this, about this constant striving to be better, to listen to your clients, to deliver the product that not only meet but exceed their expectations, that evolves, that improves, whilst also that not being about, if we roll out XYZ, then we can whack your fees up 20%.
No, as Freddie just said, that was he said
it's the opposite. Exactly. It's about delivering more value. And that's when you've got a proper partner in your business, because it's not about the selfish reason of, if we do this, we can charge you X more. No, it's about, if we do this, this, and this, we deliver you 20% more value for the same price. And I think that's what's really exciting is, there are more and more companies like this who proactively not only listen to their agents, ask their agents, go knocking on the door and go, guys, we haven't heard from you in a couple of months. Talk to us. What are you liking? What aren't you liking? What's working? What's not? If we could change one thing, we can make one thing better, what would it be?
That trend was already happening, wasn't it? But actually, the other thing about I've noticed without a shadow of a doubt is over the period of COVID and lockdown, people's expectations and what they want from their business supplier partners has changed, hasn't it? It's not always possible to deal with companies that you absolutely love, but if you can deal with those partners that are aligned, then it's a wonderful place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's so much value to be gained from both. An agent working with a product and partner that evolves and aligns with where they want to go, brilliant. And equally, as a supplier, to have agents coming back to you going, dude, you nailed this.
Yeah.
People will go nuts, giving you that ground floor insight that unless you're working in agency, you're really not going to get.
They're giving you the blueprints for success, aren't they?
Exactly. And if you're clever enough to listen and look, it's not always going to be bang on the money. You're going to get some feedback which is very particular to that agent and not relevant to the marketplace. You need to find that filter. You need to find a way of identifying where the real value is for your client base and etc. But there's a lot of products out there now where actually a huge part of their sales and growth technique isn't about shouting about what they do, it's about shouting what's coming next.
Yeah, that's great. Can I just ask another question as well, just before we finish? Because I said it was going to be about 40 minutes, then I forgot I had Christian on, which always
40 minutes is my section, mate. You can edit my bloody talking down to 40.
It's always gold dust, so I absolutely love it as well. But I want to just understand, because as we said, there's loads of different sort of camera options out there, virtual tours and everything else. But why should an agent go for a subscription over the option of purchasing a camera outright? I'll start with you, Natalie, because of course that was your previous. What's your view on that now? Because some people feel uncomfortable about kind of the rental side of things. Did it just feel like that's just the modern way of doing stuff these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was never a question for us. So we were always going to go down the subscription model. So like Freddie touched upon, we are not editors, so if something goes wrong with the camera, we look at each other and go, what do we do next? So we have absolutely no idea. So that back office support is crucial, we needed it to be able to make sure there's no point having this fancy piece of kit, so that actually does all sorts of, sort of different things for you without being able to call somebody and say, actually, it's gone wrong, so what happens next? There's a lot of times where we will have sort of half possibly done a virtual tour and the camera may have died midway through and we've got to sort of charge up and go back and actually, you know, sort of the guys will stitch it together. Do you know? So I don't even understand what that even means. I just know that they stitch it together and that the VR tour looked like nothing had even happened. Nothing had ever gone wrong.
So that's their secret sauce, you would suggest then as well, that editing resource that they have that enables them to do that sort of Harry Potter-esque visual magic, and also to turn it around in such a quick fashion that the market demands these days. That sounds like that's a secret sauce element that you're talking about here.
Absolutely. And not to mention the ongoing training and the support that obviously you get, you know, so with regards to, I mean, not that you need a huge amount of training with it, but
press button one, press button two.
Yeah, so tech always works really, really well when you know how to use it. But the second it goes wrong, everybody flaps, everybody sort of, and there's nothing worse than being stood inside a client's house with your camera just spinning around looking at you.
That's reputational damage, isn't it?
Absolutely. Do you know? So it was a no-brainer for us. And obviously every time we've broken a camera, and I won't go into too much how many times we may have broken a camera. So we've kindly got a new one sent out within days. So it's never been an issue because obviously we've got that support from these guys.
That sounds like a bloopers reel right there, Freddie. We can go back over your client base, talk about the weird and wonderful ways they've broken it, leaving it in the pub and stuff like that. But anyway, Christian, what about yourself in terms of, you know, your view over, well, given that you've launched a prop tech company that works on a SaaS model, this is a bit stupid, but do you believe in the subscription model over outright?
So look, I think, let's look at the nuts and bolts in most agencies. Most agents hire the car fleet that they use. A lot of agencies effectively have their hardware tech, their PCs and laptops on a hire contract. I don't genuinely see why you would approach anything else. And there's convenience to that, right? Like with your cars, with your computers, every few years you upgrade. Like Natalie said, something breaks, something goes down. It's not on you to fix your product. You talk to your partner, your supplier, and you go, guys, got a problem here, you know, and they work with you to solve that problem. You know, the reality is with tech, whether it's software or hardware, it ages. You know, there will come a point at some point where Giraffe will bring out the next version of this camera, whatever that is, whether that's, you know, an upgraded camera, like Freddie said, you know, hardware that enables it to shoot faster or whatever. You know, it's a constantly evolving space. You know, do I want to spend $2,000 on a state-of-the-art camera that in 4 years that supplier turns around and goes, yeah, I mean that camera's great, but if you want to spend another $3,000, we've rolled out a camera that's twice as good.
I've registered everything from aardvark.com to I've got all of the animals are there for their next upgrade when it comes out. So I'm cyber squatting all of those, Freddie, for when you need to buy them off me. Guys, I've got to say thank you very much. Honestly, to hear you talk so lucidly about the benefits, obviously, and your views on it, I think it's just seems to me such an obvious no-brainer around what is your absolutely core marketing, you know, resource, the imagery of the property itself. It doesn't need to be oversaid from there. Freddie, apart from taking the knee for these people and saying thanks, so I'm guessing you're going to say thank you to them. What have you learned really listening to your clients, as we all have to, as Christian said, over the course of the previous hour?
It's about being able to adapt to what people tell you, but then again, you know, Christian touched on a point there where some feedback you get will be very specific and very might not be applicable in some cases as well. But we take all feedback on board. We listen. Some feedback, people don't actually understand the complexity of what they're asking. So people are asking, okay, well, actually, we want this 3D floor plan to be automatically manipulable from our dashboard, and they don't actually understand the technical requirements that go into being able to actually offer that sort of service. So
can you just do that, Fred? Can you just? The most
exactly
three most dangerous words in an agent's request on a tech product.
Yes, and that's what and people think it's all very easy. That, well, you have the 2D floor plan, just make it 3D, and it's as if they're thinking, okay, you can just press a button in Paint, which just transitions this. And then I start off by then going to my tech team and say, well, this is what they're asking for. And the way it's explained by, you know, different advice, different feedback given to you from these agents, it doesn't sound unreasonable, but
Freddie,
then you then get educated.
We can't go
how
into the
difficult it gets.
second hour talking about agents' limitations on tech.
No. The point I'm making is we've worked hard to get the sort of feedback that we've got from Natalie and Christian. It's amazing to hear it nonetheless. Obviously, I don't want to turn around and say, well, it's to be expected. No, of course not. This is incredible feedback, and we hope that it will benefit us, it will benefit others. But at the same time, behind the scenes, we've spoken with Christian. I spoke with Christian at the A Masters. We talked about what we want to deliver going forward. So while we finally managed to deliver everything that we've been promising perfectly in the past, it's now about delivering on this new vision, on what we want to achieve moving forward. And hopefully we are not very far away from doing that.
I love the way you just keep dropping these teasy bits in. It's great there.
Just dangling the carrot.
It's really is, isn't it? Let me just say, Natalie, Christian, Freddie, thank you so much for taking so much time out of your day today. I think it's been really, really useful. I've learned a load more about the fantastic Giraffe products, and I look forward to catching you up at one of those aforementioned award shows in the future.
Thank you.
And Simon, thank you very much, by the way, for not talking about the giraffe tongue like last time.
Oh, you had to. Don't open the door for him now. Don't open the door for him now.
I feel like I'm ready to go now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
Run
a
for the hills. But before we go, if you haven't looked at Giraffe, check it out, guys. If you're an agent looking at your marketing, honestly, reach out to Fred, talk to the team, have a look. It's a wicked product. It's a brilliant company. You won't regret it.
Agreed.
I was going to try and take the last word, but as usual, with Christian Byfield on, he's nailed it again. Just do what the man said there. Thank you, guys. That was a fantastic show. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.